Hi, this is the Jedster from G Videos. Now, I know this might sound a little bit weird, but I'm going to show you a knitting tutorial. Well, actually a series of knitting tutorials, as knitting is not just one part. There are several different components of knitting that you will need to know before you can start following patterns, and a little more to go before you can actually start making your own patterns. Even I haven't started making my own patterns yet. So, here are the basic materials that you'll need. Oh, hang on, there's one. Well, for this first tutorial, the materials that you'll need are 2 knitting needles, the size of which varies to what size you find most comfortable or to what size your pattern requires. So you got 2 needles, and you'll need a ball of yarn. Today I'm just doing with green, as it's a nice smooth wool, and it's a good light colored one, so it'll be easier to see the stitches. Okay, so what you do first is you just unwind some of your yarn, get a good amount of length, but not too much, because you don't want to end up it all tangling up and forming a large big knot, because that gets very awkward and takes ages to untangle, and probably by the time you untangle it and you start knitting, and you end up having more knots that you have to go untangle. So, rule numero uno: keep your wool tidy. Okay, so to start off a knitting pattern, you will need to cast on. Now, there are several different techniques on how to cast on, but I will show you the technique that I use. Okay, so you'll need to start off by creating a slip stitch, which is very, very easy. Just put the tail end of one yarn, because you'll need a tail of it so that the stitches don't just slip off the end, so give yourself a good sized tail. And you get your 2 fingers, hold the tail in your hand, bring the yarn over your 2 fingers and over, creating a sort of loop between your fingers, and then you take this bit of yarn and you just pop a loop of it through like this, take your fingers out and pull. Now, don't worry if it gets too big, because thank God for this fact, but these loops, the size of these loops is adjustable. Okay, so grab one of your needles and shove the loop through, and then you just pull the working end of your yarn until you get a nice little loop of the size you want, depending on how loosely you want your stitches, whether you want it to be nice and loose, like for a jumper or or shawl or something like that. You can have nice loose stitches, and you should always have loose stitches on your cast on end, because that means it's not such a pain in the butt to get in, and not such a pain in the butt to go in and try and get your needle into the tight stitches, because believe me, that's what I did when I started knitting, and that was very awkward. So let's not go down that track. Okay, next you'll need to grab your other needle, bring it up through the bottom of the loop, grab your working end and bring it around and between the 2 needles. Bring your right needle, or your left, depending whether you're right-handed or left-handed. I always use the right needle, which is quite literally the right needle is the right needle for me. Okay, so you put the loop on there and just pull working end until it's a nice small one, and you get yourself a little V-shaped bit there. Next, you insert your needle into at the bottom, or in technical terms, the vertex of your V. Bring the yarn around between the 2 needles, bring one needle down and bring the loop up through the V, slip the stitch onto your needle, and presto, now you've got one proper stitch and you've got a nice little V here. So once you've gotten that done, you just continue doing it how you do with the V, and you just into the V, you yarn around, bring stitch through, put onto needle, and pull working strand. You keep going for as many stitches as you want. When you're starting off, I highly recommend starting off with a simple peggy square, which can be anything from starting off with a all knit stitches, or all purl stitches, or maybe you could do 1 row knit and 1 row purl, which gives you a nice, good, like, smooth end and a bumpy end on the other side. It's very good. It's a very good stitch to use. A very cool looking stitch, because if you're making a jumper, it looks nice and smooth on the outside, but you have a nice, you know, bumpy and almost you have a smooth end on the inside, and you have the bumpy bit on the outside, instead of having bumpy bits on both sides, which you would do from doing straight knit or straight purl. So you keep knitting, and also you keep there's also mistakes you can keep making, like sometimes your needle can impale the strand of wool and bring out the smaller strands of small threads, and your needle gets stuck in there and it starts to tangle up and cause problems, but it's easy enough to fix. Or you can go through and put the stitch on and it slips off the end of the needle before you can bring it through the V, bottom of the V. But yeah, this is hang on, one more stitch. Just considering that the memory card of this camera only has short videos, I've only got 3 minutes that I can have on this. But basically, you got yourself a good number of stitches. I've put on 10, and you get something like this, nice and good, a good starting point for any good tutorial. Oops, sorry, my ball of yarn fell off. So yeah, that's how you cast on. The next tutorial will be how to do the knit stitch, which is very vital for when you're doing this. But casting on is even more important, because without a cast on row, then you can't do a knitting stitch. This is the foundations for the house that is your piece of knitting, so you need this. So please make sure you watch this tutorial first. I'll redirect you to this video on any other videos. Starting bits. The link to the next video will be in the description. Will be in the description below. Or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll receive an email saying when I put on the next video. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time with my next tutorial. Peace out.